After every new terrorist attack in the West, falsely committed in the name of Islam by heretics or mercenaries, some politician tries to profit from the tragedy by scapegoating all Muslims and demonizing an entire world religion. There are 1.6 billion Muslims in the world today. They believe in one God. They believe in the prophets of God, including Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad. They believe in the books of God, the Torah, the Gospel, and the Quran. They believe in the Day of Judgment and heaven and hell. Muslims pray, fast, give charity, perform pilgrimage, promote the good, and forbid the wrong. According to the Pew Research Center, 93% of the Islamic world is made up of Sunnis, Shiites, and Sufis. They are orthodox Muslims. 7% of the Islamic world is made up of Salafis, Wahhabis, and Takfiris. They are not orthodox Muslims. They are heretics. They are the people referred to in the West as Islamists, Jihadists, and Islamo-Fascists. Statistically speaking, there is absolutely no doubt that the overwhelming majority of Muslims are as law-abiding as the members of any other monotheistic faith. Anyone who argues otherwise is dishonest, duplicitous, and deceptive. Though some but not all Muslim jurists have believed that adulterers should be stoned to death, the very same punishment is found in the Bible. And though some but not all Muslim jurists have believed that the punishment for homosexual intercourse is death, the very same punishment is found in the Bible. And even jurists who believe in severe punishments make the burden of proof so strict that proving guilt is often next to impossible. Hussein Aboubakr focuses on the fact that many Muslims from the Middle East and South Asia support the death penalty for apostasy. However, he conveniently ignores the broader picture. 71% of Tunisian Muslims, 73% of Thai Muslims, 78% of Tajik Muslims, 83% of Turkish Muslims, 82% of Indonesian Muslims, 85% of Bosnian and Russian Muslims, 89% of Kosovar Muslims, 92% of Albanian Muslims, and 96% of Kazakh Muslims oppose the death penalty for people who leave Islam. Aboubakr speaks of his family in Egypt as if they represented mainstream Islam. But anyone who claims that every day that passes on the Islamic nation without a caliphate is a sin, that the failures and miseries of the Muslim world started the moment we Muslims gave up conquests and wars against infidels, that our prosperity depended on conquering new lands and converting new believers, and that anyone who leaves the faith must die, does not belong to a traditional mainstream Muslim family. He comes from a Salafi, Wahhabi, Takfiri family. Virtually every terrorist action committed in the name of Islam is committed not by Sunnis, not by Shiites, not by Sufis, but by Salafi, Wahhabi, Takfiris. Whether it is the Taliban, al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, al-Shabab, al-Nusra, or ISIS, all so-called Muslim terrorists describe themselves as Salafis. The fact of the matter is that radical Islamism is not Islam. Did Muslims celebrate 9/11 with joy? Absolutely not. Did the Salafis, Wahhabis, and Takfiris revel in the death and destruction of September 11, 2001? Absolutely. Certainly, the Salafi, Wahhabi, Takfiris, the Islamo-Fascists as they are known in the Western world, target Christians and Yazidis. However, the vast majority of their victims are orthodox mainstream Muslims. Groups like ISIS are not Muslims fighting for Islam. They are false, nominal Muslims fighting against true Muslims and destroying Islam in the process. Rather than try to terrify non-Muslims by claiming that most Muslims believe in the Sharia, Hussein Aboubakr should define his terms. When Islamophobes speak of Sharia, they invoke medieval corporal punishment, lashing, stoning, and beheading. When Muslims say Sharia, they just mean the law. So yes, most Muslims believe in obeying the law. When a Muslim asks another Muslim whether he or she follows the Sharia, he is asking whether that person prays, fasts, and gives charity. Namely, whether the person is a practicing Muslim, not whether the person goes around chopping off hands and heads. The Sharia is to Muslims what the halakha is to Jews, or canon law to Catholics. When Muslims say that they favor making the Sharia the official law in their country, they are not speaking of the perverted version of the Sharia proposed by Salafis, Wahhabis, and Takfiris, the so-called radical Islamists and Jihadists. They are speaking about the traditional interpretations of Islamic law, which are updated and adapted to modern times. 99% of Afghans support Islamic law. However, less than 29% of them support the Taliban. And while 91% of Iraqis believe that the Sharia should be the official law of the land, They are certainly not speaking of the fake Sharia that is implemented by ISIS. The Iraqis are at war with ISIS. They are clearly not fighting over the same Sharia. Over 60% of Muslims support democracy. If this seems low to some, it is because Muslims have been the victims of fake democracy since the end of colonial times. If 40% oppose democracy, it is the democracy of military dictators and monarchs that they oppose, as well as the democracy of Western invasion and occupation. When asked about religious freedom, 92.6% of Muslims asserted that it was a good thing. Anyone who claims that most of the world's Muslims believe that any acts of violence against Israel, including suicide bombers and buses and restaurants, are justified, is a liar. As the Pew Research Center confirms, the majority of Muslims oppose extremism, terrorism, and suicide bombing. Calling out radical Islamists and Jihadists does not make one an Islamophobe. I do it all the time, and I'm a committed Muslim. Putting all Muslims in the same boat, painting them with the same brush, falsifying facts, and trying to convince people that even educated, unveiled, and accent-free Muslim women were extremists is the very epitome of Islamophobia. It is equally Islamophobic to claim that Muslims do not rise up to denounce Islamicist terror because they are secretly in sympathy with the terrorists. Wrong! They denounce it all the time, by the millions. Muslim voices, however, are routinely censored by the mainstream media. It is critical to distinguish between the masses of Muslim human beings from the tiny minority of subhuman terrorists. The traditional values of Islam are perfectly compatible with the traditional values of the Western world, Judeo-Christian values and humanitarian values. The Prophet Muhammad produced the first constitution in the political history of humanity. The covenants of the Prophet were the first to enshrine modern notions of civic and human rights. The principles of the Prophet influenced the European Renaissance, the Napoleonic Code, the American Constitution, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Orthodox, traditional, mainstream, civilizational, and classical Islam does not need to be reformed. It needs to be healed of a disease, a poisonous innovation called Takfiri Salafism, a cancerous tumor attached to the body of Islam. It does not belong to the body. It will debilitate, destroy, and kill the body. It must be amputated. The sooner that the cancerous tumor is surgically removed, the better it will be for both Muslims and non-Muslims. I am Dr. John Andrew Morrow, unapologetically Muslim for the Covenants Initiative.